Go ahead and call the meeting to order. I've asked Commissioner Val to start us in prayer, but before that, I'd like to take a moment of silence for the loss of our friend Jay before we pray. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today to once again thank you and praise you for everything you do for us, all the blessings of life, for eternal life, for everything you add unto us after that. Please forgive us of our sins, times that we know we fail you miserably each and every day. We ask for strength, Lord, and guidance so that we won't fail you, that we'll always do what you would have us to do each and every day. As we enter into this meeting today, we pray that you would also guide our hearts, our minds, give us your wisdom, your discernment to do what you would have us to do, not necessarily what we would want, what you would want us to do, what's right in your eyes. We ask that you bless the Yeager family during this time, send them a comforting spirit. Lord, remind them that even during the dark times, you're still there. All this we ask in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
And Commissioner Vandergrift is going to lead us in the pledge.
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have one item to add to the agenda that Robbie handed out, and this under new business is fine.
And I handed it out. It's the last page of the handout.
If everybody's okay, can I have a motion to add that?
Motion to
Have a
approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Bochamp, and we'll put that under new business, item number 11. Or H, I guess, sorry. 1 under H. And do we have any appearances by citizens? Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. Robbie, cash and fund balance report.
Cash and fund balance, just a couple of quick things about our cash and fund balance report. Unaudited, and we still haven't closed the month of June from the prior year, so this all will change and quite a bit. But restricted funds are at 1.3 million for the general fund, committed 1.2, assigned funds 4.1 million, unassigned fund balance 12.9 million, total fund balance 19.7, cash 18,744,836, which is up almost $1 million from last July at this time.
Any questions? Okay, so tax report.
Sales tax for the month of June, the county whole, as a whole portion, 4.3 million. It's up 2.9%. Anderson County's portion, 567,955. That's up 11%. And we finished the fiscal year, as you can see, 3.9% more than last fiscal year. And I checked everybody's, the three funds that get sales tax: general fund, highway, and the schools. And all three of those funds were up in sales tax collections this fiscal year too, from last
So we
fiscal.
were over what we budgeted.
Not over. General fund was a little under what we budgeted.
Okay.
We budgeted $2 million. We're at 1,984,
Okay.
1.9 million. But the other two were over. Yes.
Any questions? Okay. ARPA fund.
ARPA
projects
funds
report?
project report. Yes, sir. The remaining allocation plus interest is 1,299,580, which has to be obligated by December 31st of this year, and spent by December 31st of 2026. So not much change from last time on that, except we did earn some more interest, and I'm not even sure we had that reflected on here. So that's probably another 20,000 in there as well.
Does anybody have any questions on it? And then on some of the ones that are, that are still in progress or pending, that we've not spent any money, do we have any kind of updates when we'll start spending money on those?
We, I know the mayor has updated some, not updated, but contacted some of her, some of the projects that, she's not really in charge of, but under her department, like the health department, and we have said that those funds have to be committed by the end of this year, right near the PO. We have started working on some of
Okay.
these. The Comcast is very close to being completed. I saw an email chain with me, Mayor, and John about that. If you,
So, actually, they pushed forward, I guess they have pushed forward, I can do that for you, and send that out in an email. They pushed forward the completion date, but in talking with John, about getting this handled, we can ask them to invoice. They finally got us the complete copies of the contracts with the state of Tennessee, which was one of the holdups on our side, being able to allocate any funding. So we can get that taken care of from a funding standpoint, so that's not an issue. The others, I have reached out to, on the CDBG. That one has been just a very long, ongoing process. We just wrote another letter requested by the state yesterday for an additional update in the number of connections, but I have spoken with them, and I said, we have to be able to get this out to bid and be under contract by the end of December, and I just continue to push them on that, and they say that will happen, and it can happen. So, the other ones that are on there, trying to think anything else that is relevant.
the dental clinic is in the digital poll books, which is the election office, and I've spoke to him a couple of times. He says he's going to spend it, but.
What is it?
The digital poll books that are,
What exactly is a digital poll book?
well, it kind of goes with the new voting machines. I think it's something, I mean, more something like when you go to vote, you're signing digitally instead of,
Is that something he could come here next month and talk to us
I
about?
can ask him to, yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
it is rather not the smoothest and easiest process right now to vote in Anderson County, and I would, if he's got money to spend to make it better, I'd love to know why in the heck he's not spending it.
Okay. I will extend an invite.
And if any election commissioner wants to come, that'd be great too.
Do what?
If any election commissioner would like to come, that'd be awesome too.
Yeah, I'd like an invite for all of the election commission to report along with Mark Stevens.
Mr. Smarty?
Just one, so we have uncommitted funds of $1,024,313 that are not committed at this point, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was right.
And that must be, not expended, but what's the word I'm looking for, must be incurred, the cost must be,
Committed.
yeah, by December?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that does not include the interest on that also.
There are some,
1.3.
there are some things on this agenda that could interest spending some ARP funds today, so.
Do we just lose those funds if they're not committed and the project is not completed? Do we?
We would if we did not recommit them before the 30. So some of these we'll get we'll try everything not to let that happen. We don't want to lose
I
spring.
think we'll spend it before
Yeah.
we, or we'll at least
I
mark
also
them.
want to clarify that when you're talking about being committed funds, this is not, yeah, it's a step beyond the commission approving funding. We actually have to have a PO or a contract in place. So while we do have the deadline of December of this year to have those funds committed, we really need to have them, everything figured out a month or two in advance so that we can actually get a PO or a contract in place with whoever we're going to do these purchasing with, or construction, or whatever it is decided. Because if we don't have those in place, that doesn't count. Just having the commission saying that we're going to do a project doesn't work.
And Robert, do you care to bring that list, the original list that kind of was, not a national list, but it had a bunch of projects on it?
Sure.
Some got funded. I know some are on this, but not, some didn't get funded. If you don't care to bring that, or put it in our packet next month. Any additional questions on the ARPA funds before we move on? Okay. We got the grant inventory.
This is a new inventory for 24, 25 grants. Because you can see it shrunk a little bit, but these are the grants we have in place currently for this fiscal year, if there's any questions.
I have a quick question.
Commissioner Mays.
Mayor, and I talked to you today, and I totally forgot to ask you this, and I apologize. Tourism ARPA grant, is that ARPA related to our ARPA dollars? Is it a totally separate pot of money?
Separate.
Separate? Or,
It's additional money that the state is sending down from their ARP in order to do additional advertising and marketing. And so that was one of the things, like you saw bump up in the budget this year on the marketing side. A lot of that was coming from these dollars that's where we're required to spend it.
thank you. I'm sorry for not asking you that earlier.
Any other questions? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Okay, we had one transfer from the Register of Deeds office for $2,000 from maintenance and repair to rentals.
Do you have a motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Number 5, and appropriations from the school department. There are 3 of those, 2 through 4. Seeking approval as a group. Be happy to answer any questions.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bochamp for groups 2 through 5, you said?
2 through 4.
Sorry. We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Vandergriff. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise? Motion carries.
All right, number 6, appropriations from EMA. There are 2 of those. They're both grant related. One is from last year's grant, we're moving the money forward to finish spending this year, the $9,744, and the other is a $28,250 grant from
Have a motion as a group.
Homeland Security.
And that's, you said 6 or is that 5?
That's 5 and 6.
5 and 6,
It's number 6 on her.
Gotcha.
To the left.
On the agenda, but 5
5
on
and
the
6.
thing. That's what was throwing me off a minute ago.
I know.
We got a motion by Commissioner Mays to approve as a group. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smallridge. Any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise? Motion carries.
Okay, number 7 is from the library. This was approved last fiscal year. It's $3,000 grant they received from Norris Community, from the Norris Area Community Foundation. And we're moving the money out of fund balance back into a code so they can spend it this year.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by Commissioner Vandergriff to approve. We have a second?
Second.
Yeah, second by Commissioner Bochamp. And any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner.
I'm sorry, Robert, you probably explained this, and I know it says other supplies. Was there a particular,
It's for, the grant is to fund technology devices to be used in outreach and STEM programs from the library. Specifically, outreach will occur in the surrounding senior facilities and inside the library. It's meant to benefit residents of Norris, Andersonville, Bethel, and Fairview in Anderson County.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise? Motion carries.
Okay, 8 and 9 are from the Sheriff's Department. Number 8 is it's from unassigned fund balance, but mainly came from insurance recovery that they didn't get to spend last year, rolled into fund balance, and now we're pulling it back out to repair vehicles. And, well, the second one is an insurance recovery that we received. We will receive this month. I actually got notification from HR this week that they had mailed the check out on 8/1. So both of these are insurance recovery revenue that we are moving to vehicle repairs and maintenance.
Motion to approve.
Got a
As a
motion
group.
as a group. Got a motion to approve as a group from Commissioner Vandergriff. Do we have a second?
I'll second, but I do have a quick
Got
question.
a second by Commissioner Mays, and I'll
Robbie, on the one that you said you got notice that the check was coming,
Yeah.
if that check ain't here by commission, will you pull this off?
Yes.
All right.
Any other questions or discussion?
I will say too, the reason this is an unassigned, these funds came in after June for prior year. We take them back to prior year, so they can't do anything with them, with as far as the budget amendment from prior year. That just has to roll into fund balance.
Yeah.
Okay. See no more questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise? Motion carries.
Okay, 10 through 13 are from the finance department. I'm just going to take 10 individually. It's quite a large one. Asking for $175,000 from unassigned fund balance to other general administration, other charges. This is for a Tennessee risk management payment. We pay that payment on July 1st because we get a 2% discount if we do, and it's over $1 million. So we go ahead and make that payment, and then we do journal entries and ID back from other funds to put back into that code. Well, this year that was $175,000 short, and Kim had done a really good job of sending me an email explaining the estimated increase from prior year's 11%. There's several property values went up 14% from prior year. And on this chart that I gave you all, this is the last 5 years of workers' compensation claims, over 260 claims for $2.1 million, and property and casualty claims the last 5 years, 128 claims of $1.35 million. I just wanted you all to know we are using this quite a bit, but I mean, and obviously that's one of the reasons it's going up, not just in our county, but across the state. One of the ones you approved earlier is from the schools for the very same thing, $150,000. So we both, I even increased our budget, but it just wasn't enough. So I wasn't expecting this big of an increase, but that's what it is what it is.
And on that chart, the breakdown between the property and casualty claims, do we know what's what? I mean, I know we got that data.
Yes.
Can you share that data with us? Just kind of, if you have it, I'd just like to know of the 31 or 29 casualty.
These
two
go
on
through
property.
HR, so yeah, she would have to share them.
Sure. So are you looking at the property and casualty first?
Yes,
Okay.
that was my. I know they're together, but they're.
So on your property and casualty, the breakdown of those by year underneath the graph, in 2019 and 20, those were primarily vehicle accidents that also included injuries. So those are the costs there. There was an alleged assault that was tied to that one. In 2021 and 2022, the $314,000. Those were stolen property. There was a shooting and a canine bite. All of those were impacting that year. 22, 23, the biggest one, that was our freeze and floodings.
Okay.
That's what moved the number on that one. So when you look at 2020 and 2023, those are the lesser, and those are just common, smaller claims that build up to that. But I mean, I can give you exact specifics if you want, but that's kind of where they're at, very high level.
Do you care to send that out in email to us?
I can.
Yeah, I'd like to see the breakdown.
Okay. Are you wanting them by department, instance?
I'd like to see instance, not really doesn't do department, but just, like I said, property
Okay.
compared to like a lawsuit that we would have been under something compared to, like I said, the freeze makes a big, makes sense for, the
Yes.
numbers weren't high, but the amount was large.
Yes.
So, but no rush on that. It's not like I have
Okay.
to have it.
You want that on the workers' comp as well, and I can send it all out together?
Yeah,
Okay.
Appreciate
Is that good?
Commissioner,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about, was there a motion to approve this?
I don't think we got to that point,
No,
sorry.
sorry.
Do we have a motion to approve the 175,000? We're just doing the
This
number
one,
10.
the first one,
Okay.
yeah.
We have a motion. We got a motion approved by Commissioner Vandegrift. We have a second.
Second.
Okay. Second by Commissioner Bochamp. Commissioner Mays.
Tennessee Risk Management's been our vendor for 100 years.
As long as I know.
Have we done anything, like gone out to market to see if we're paying a better?
We haven't, and I knew you were going to ask that question today because you'd already asked me, and I talked to Kim about that, and we are going to reach out this year, and
When will that be? When is that process for you guys?
that would be anytime between now and July 1st when we have to renew. So
Okay. I would just, we may be doing great. I just
agree.
would like to see.
I agree.
You don't need that, any kind of motion from this group to look at that, y'all are.
No, I don't think so. I'll,
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Other questions or discussion on this? Seeing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise. Motion carries.
one thing I will say too, workers' comp goes up because too, when our salaries goes up, and we have been fortunate enough to give, better raises, 7%, the raises we gave the sheriff. And of course, the EMS and the sheriff's department both are some of your higher risks in the state. Their percentage is a lot higher that we pay in, so that has an effect too, even, so I just,
Do we get audited at the end of the year too, based on our numbers?
we did, in fact, I
Sometimes
got
we have to write a check.
Mhm.
Okay.
For the prior year, they are getting ready to come in the next month or so. I got a notice to.
Okay. We don't usually get money back.
We will, but I have a feeling we're gonna owe again.
Yeah,
Owe
right,
some more.
yeah.
This may not be over. So 11 through 13 are basically grant, adding grants into all three of these were approved last fiscal year that we're moving into this fiscal year. The first one is the law enforcement hiring, training, and recruitment grant. We have one employee that is qualified for this. The state has already sent a $3,000 check. I just increased this $17,000 because I don't want to come up here and ask for money every month that they send us money that I have to do another budget amendment. If we don't use this, and we don't get the revenue or the expenditure, it's just a washout. The second one is just correcting some of the VCIF2 codes. The only reason it's in this is because the payroll is involved. And the third one is the EMS grant that we approved last May or April and didn't get spent last year. We finally got a contract approval today for this, and he only has till the end of September to spend it. So, and so I went ahead and put the budget in, and it was $150,000 last month, and the true amount is $134,180.10. So those are the three.
As a group. Got a motion approved by Group Commissioner Smallridge. We have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Mays. Any questions or discussion? And Nathan, you're not gonna have any issues getting that money spent? I know that was kind of the biggest concern with that grant.
So talking with the vendor is a 6-week delivery time, so it's gonna be cutting it close.
Okay.
But we did get the contract today, and I've been speaking with the vendor, so Robbie in the finance department did a great job, already had the PO ready, so we're ready to go ahead and activate as soon as we got the notice, and we were waiting for that contract to come through.
Okay.
So we should be able to make it.
And I would not normally do that with the PO, but we had already approved this last fiscal year, so I didn't see there being any reason not to.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise. Motion carries.
Your 14 and 15 are from the mayor. The first one is the senior center, $6,750 from their restricted for senior center donations to upgrade the concrete tables outside the senior center that are soft and degrading, probably has a risk liability wise. And the second one is $857,841 from restricted for industrial for the ARC grant application for EMS training facility authorized by county commission. And Anderson County has been notified that the funding was approved for the grant, and we would like to set aside these funds for the specific ARC code. So, and the mayor can talk about this more if you have any questions. There is the resolution's attached along with the budget narrative.
Do we need to handle these separately?
You can if you'd like, or you can approve them as a
I
group.
make a motion we approve number 14 for the
Okay.
senior center.
Got a motion by Commissioner Mays to approve number 14. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Val. Any questions or discussion on number 14? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise. Motion carries. Okay, number 15. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion approved by Commissioner Bochamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Got a second by Commissioner Smallridge. Any questions or discussion? Commissioner Smallridge?
If this is a matching share for us, and is that money set aside or at this point? Or?
So, It is, it's set aside by ARC, and so that's what I'm requesting is for our matching portion to be set aside, out of those industrial funds. Yep,
So it's a 50-50 grant
yes.
that we're supplying $1,021,257, and their share is the same, $1,021,000. This is just the construction portion.
Yes, so the other, you know, there's no, I'm not gonna come to ask to set aside the other funds at this point because it's only upon, once the training is finished constructing and then we start employing personnel. That was that other portion. That is the 50-50. So there's really no need for commission to do that right now. And it's paid out over 3 years. So, I mean, to me, I just thought it would be better for you all. I mean, you can do whatever. You could go ahead and set it aside. But since it's going to be for salaries and wages, I figured it wasn't really a requirement until we're actually in real time ready to employ and train. So,
Because the only thing that we could spend now would be the construction cost.
yes, and we don't even have the contract yet or anything. It's, in fact, we have to have a specific address for the contract, so I'm going to be talking to Operations Committee about that, the where. And once that's finalized, they will release the contract, and then we go from there, so.
Commissioner Mays?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, you answered the first question about the where. The second one would be, under this grant, can it only be a training facility? Or can it be a training facility and have 2 bays on the side of it?
You know, when we originally looked at this grant, we even conceived of perhaps purchasing a building somewhere, renovating. I think there can be. In fact, we even, you know, on the Operations Committee, I discussed if we do the location at that Glen Alpine, that we develop our site plan with the idea that you have eventual Andersonville Volunteer Fire Department, you know, for that, to address growth on that end of the county. My understanding from our initial, when we tried for this in 2022, 23, was that our first application, fiscal year 23? We can do that. I mean, we can design it with that in mind. I don't want to marry the project so that we're going at the same time and we're having to explain to ARC and the federal government all of these, you know, trying to split invoices. But yes, it could be. So, I mean, because we talked about that when we initially talked about retrofitting some type of facility, that maybe it could be co-located with one of our EMS stations.
Yeah.
So we do have, for instance, at the Glen Alpine area, back in the industrial park, we have a trailer back there for one of our EMS facilities. So if it is something that we do want to look at some point in time, we could just, you know, use that property for something else another time, shut the trailer down, and then have a facility co-located with the training facility.
Gotcha.
And I say training facility, I mean, it's not huge. I mean, we're limited by square
So
square
this
footage.
training facility, and forgive me for forgetting, would the employee that would get hired for this, would they be there solely for training, and that's it?
I'll let you address that part.
So the way we wrote the grant was that they were committed to training. It was actually full-time and part-time, but they were committed to doing the training, basically to have that training year-round. So the idea is that this is a training facility, and as far as I understand, the funds specifically in this grant can only be used on the training facility.
Right.
We can't use it to build other
Yeah.
projects or add on to. But this individual was going to be in the training department. Now, they will be an employee just like all of our others. So if they decide to pick up a shift on a truck on a weekend or evening or something, they're going to be allowed to do that. Obviously, that pay is not going to be split 50-50 between ARC and us.
I mean, you know where I'm going. with this. I mean, of course, I want there to be a station in Claxton, the Claxton area, and I supported the initial resolution to seek the grant. But man, when I look at $1 million, and I support this endeavor, but I just see, for me, going back to people in my district saying, yeah, we did spend $1 million for this project, but then telling them we don't have the money to build a station or fund personnel at a station in the district. That's kind of where I'm just torn at right now.
And while I can definitely understand where you're coming from, this is also one-time money, one-time spent in regards to a facility.
So would be the purchase of,
personnel.
well, so would be the
reoccurring.
purchase of land and the purchase of an
Right.
EMS station.
Yes, but I was gonna say the personnel is a reoccurring cost.
Yes,
So-
right, and therein lies the struggle for me. So,
Understood.
but I do appreciate y'all answering my questions.
And Commissioner Mays, to address your point, when we were first discussing this back in '23 and '24, that's why I suggested the industrial funds, being sensitive to that very fact, because this is for training, much like a TCAT,
Right.
funds we've given our own state. We can't use those industrial funds to fund an EMS station or police
Correct.
cruisers, but we can use those funds to train people in our county, to help give them upward mobility and things like that, and also serve to, train our city, which we do that a lot. We're training our city personnel at a discounted cost. This, or free, this gives us the ability to continue doing that for all jurisdictions.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions? And I know you kind of mentioned the space out, and I saw the email for operations. I know one time we had discussed about putting in Rocky Top. Did that just not work out, or?
So there are some delinquent tax parcels there that we can still look at. I just know, so I was approached maybe 6 months ago, would that be about the right time frame? By Chief Croft, or Peters with Andersonville about, their need to address response in the area. And that was kind of one of the areas she located and specifically mentioned that property. So just in talking about this with Nathan, I thought, it does, the reason I liked Rocky Top and this particular location is its proximity to the interstate. And so you're gonna, either one of those, you're gonna be at an interstate. But after speaking with Chief and her desire to perhaps co-locate, from an infrastructure standpoint, I just thought, okay, let's land on this one as a potential location.
And for the ARC, it doesn't matter on location as long as it's in Anderson County?
As long as it's in Anderson County, yeah, yep. Yeah, the first time we were specific to Rocky Top, but I will say we did not get a lot of positive feedback, so the second application, I mean, there wasn't, no, we don't want you here, there just wasn't, a big buy-in for yes, so the second round application, we opened it up to the entire county.
Gotcha.
So,
Thanks for
and
clarification.
I will say on that property next to the convenience center, I don't want to jump all over the discussion from ops, but, I talked to Andy Wallace, the president of the Economic Development Association. We have a lot of interest in that property, but they're all commercial, industrial, and there is a lot of pushback from the community to put anyone else in there from an industrial standpoint, to put more traffic onto 441. And, it took us, the first time that convenience center, Roger Houck found in some of his minutes, moving Glen Alpine was like 1982. And as you know, the county went through a lawsuit, everything else under the sun. We really want to protect that convenience center location. And I did talk to Jay about this when there were there was interest for folks moving there, purchasing it from the county. And Jay had said, there is case law where someone could purchase this, even though they purchased it knowing there was a convenience center there. And then, I can't remember what it's called, he shared it with me. But basically, they could still, a couple years from now, or three years from now, file against us for nuisance and say, well, it smells worse now than it did when we were there. There's more traffic now than when we first purchased it. And so he did caution about that, being very careful. I also tried to look at, could we possibly enter that property if we sold it from the backside? I tried to work with Sequel, that has the old pharma location, maybe about getting an easement there, if that was possible. We never were able to get that worked out. But in talking with Andy, he said, his recommendation is we stick with something, whether it's this facility or not, that we stick with something that is county-owned or some kind of, that would protect that convenience center. So.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carries.
Okay. Moving into the section portion. Section A is just information. We're required to do this. We received a letter acknowledging receipt and certified copy of our fiscal year 25 budget. It was approved by the state. They commend the governing body for adopting this year's budget prior to the beginning of the budget year. Timely adoption will result in better management of public dollars and in the coming year, and by immediately instituting appropriate budgetary controls. Adopting the budget in a timely manner also allows your financial staff more time to close the official counting records and have the records available for audit no later than 2 months after close of your fiscal year as required by Tennessee Code 9-2-102. I just wanted to put that in the budget meeting because you are the committee responsible for adopting budget, so good job.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Next.
Right. Next is from Nathan. He requested to be on this to discuss EMS performance raises and capital outlay purchases. So I'll turn it over to him.
I know for the performance raises, we had talked about that in June as the budget was coming to end, and we had a conversation and there was discussion about bringing it back. I know some did talk about that. Was there an understanding if this had already been passed or not, and something I had talked to Robbie about. I'm not aware that the actual language was used in any kind of a motion to approve for these. So I'm just kind of following through from what we discussed in June. It does not have a financial commitment this fiscal year, but it is something that we would look at and have as we go on to the years afters. For our employees would have to achieve key performance indicators in order to get that performance evaluation and performance raise. So this is somewhat akin to the raises that the sheriffs had done with the performance evaluation raises, but it is altered to fit our service and our organization. So I'm really just bringing that back before you for any further discussion, any further questions, or how we can move forward with possibly implementing this in our department. I did communicate to our staff, as was suggested by this committee, to let them know what those key performance indicators were, to let them know that they had to perform those July 1 to June 30, so that they didn't find themselves in quote-unquote default of achieving that, and that it was going to be coming back up for discussion. So basically, we didn't want them to be disqualified and not know that they were disqualified if a decision was made in favor of it.
Any questions? Seeing none?
Nathan, one thing I do have a question about. So,
Sir.
On the proposed pay adjustments, the information I provided,
Yes.
the first one that was taken care of. So
Correct.
really the only cost instead of $440,000 annually, it would be the 44,000, the 45,000, and the 28,000.
No, sir, it's
No.
gonna be just this section right here.
So
Those
45,000.
and those are off. It's just this. replace
So-
the 20 steps.
It's a $45,000 a year commitment for the.
It's projected, and I will tell you, even though I've already informed my staff, there have been 20 employees that will not qualify. Some of that is because they're not yet employed. Vacancies, I've got some staff that have left and some that are leaving, so they're out, and whoever replaces them is already out because they have to work the full year. And there's been some people that have already not achieved the KPIs or have already violated those, so they've already knocked themselves out of it. So out of 68, there's 20 that have already been bumped out.
Commissioner Orange?
The projected annual cost,
It's $45,000, and that's just starting next year. This year, there's zero annual cost, but it's already seems to be less than that now. That's
Well,
it.
that 48 took into account that people weren't going to qualify.
Okay. So-
That really is, that in and of itself, I think is, because that does include the pay increase and benefits. So I did calculate and include that as well, based on what this fiscal year numbers are. So I think that was if 40 people qualify. We're already down to a max today of 48 can only qualify.
And this would be July of
Yes,
25.
25,
Correct.
26.
No impact to this fiscal year. It would be July 1 of 25, and then the years after.
So,
Commissioner Mays?
what exactly are you asking for us to do today?
Asking that we can approve the performance raise plan.
So, and maybe I just dozed off and thought about the Olympics or something, but the 45,000, I see that number, but I'm also seeing 440,000 for total cost for all changes for FY.
You did those.
Huh?
You did those.
Well, what is this number on here?
Well, it included the first part, which that's what I asked him, the 440. We've already taken care, that was it. The raises that we gave EMS this year was section 1 of this proposal, the pay adjustments.
Those have already been.
They've been done.
That was already approved. The other 3 sections were
Yeah,
not
I just
approved.
think when it says propose, it just looks like this, that you're asking us to approve all of this. And it just kind of threw me for a loop, so I'm.
Oh, no, sir. It is only that third section on there.
Well, and it does have a February 27th date on it, and
Yeah,
Nathan I just told him I could include what he had presented before.
All right.
Are you good on your?
It makes more sense now.
Okay.
So again, I'm sorry,
That's
I'm
fine.
also confused. So we've already done the top portion, so I've
Yes,
marked
ma'am.
that off my page. So the longevity pay, that would be something we would need to
We
fund.
take that off.
Take that off. Okay. So now we're down to the key and the KPI pay.
That is the one we're discussing.
Okay, and then what about the
That one.
incentive?
That one is off.
That one's off too. Okay.
But the only one, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm
No,
sorry.
go right ahead.
The only one we approved in the last budget was the 368,000, the very top one, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you're only asking about the third section.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. I have another
A lot on that
question.
paper. Are you done?
No, I've got another question.
Oh, no, come you after that. I'll let her finish.
Okay.
I interrupted, my bad.
So the step plan or the KPI pay, if I'm understanding this right, there's gonna be people out there who will not even be eligible for any KPI pay for like 2 years. Cause they won't get it next July.
Correct.
Basically, they won't get it a year from now.
Correct.
So they won't be eligible until another year. So people
Correct.
are gonna work 2 years and not be eligible, right?
Correct. If they don't meet the key performance indicators, then they're not eligible for that pay
but
incentive.
the people who were hired this year,
Correct.
even if they were hired July 2nd.
Yeah, we've got some coming
They
in
won't.
September 9th.
Okay,
Some
they
coming
won't
in
be
October
eligible.
28th. They won't be eligible until they have to work a whole fiscal year to be eligible. Now, this is on top of any additional pay raises that may happen.
Right.
So it's not that they won't get a pay raise, this is basically a merit pay raise. If you do more than what your job description requires, which is what the key performance indicators talk about, and you're excelling as an employee, you can earn a step increase.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner Wells,
make a motion to approve.
got a motion to
Beat this
approve.
horse pretty well on the ground.
Do we have a second?
I mean, I'll second the motion.
Second, Commissioner Mays. Commissioner Ridge, did you have a question?
I do not know.
Okay. Commissioner Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'm following kind of where
Yeah.
Shelley was going.
Yeah.
And maybe I got confused somewhere along the way. This isn't going to go into your budget until July 1 of '25. Is that correct?
We will present it in the budget process.
Okay, so why are we needing a vote on it
Yeah.
today?
Well, if I'm gonna go back to tell my staff that if you do this, you're gonna get a pay raise, and then it doesn't get funded, and they don't get a pay raise.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes
The
sense.
performance starts this fiscal year.
Oh, so you're starting the evaluation
Yes.
process?
Yes, the evaluation process
Okay.
started
I
July
got you.
1 this year.
I missed that part somewhere. I guess I was, I
Watching
wasn't
the-
thinking about
watching the
the
Olympics,
thinking about
okay.
something, but, okay, I didn't understand why I was so adamant to get it approved today if we were
Right.
gonna talk about it. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or
Yeah,
discussion?
I got one.
Yes.
Just to bounce off what Commissioner Vandergriff said, if they start September 9th, they're not gonna get it this July,
Correct.
but they're not gonna get it the next July either, right?
No, they can. So,
But they haven't worked, well, yeah, they'll be in that full year.
yeah, so if they start September 9th, July 1 of next year will start just like everyone else.
Gotcha.
They start from a clean slate. They've got the key performance indicators in front of them. They know what's required of them, what they need and what they can expect. And they have 12 months to prove that they've done those things above and beyond.
Gotcha.
So,
Commissioner Vandergriff?
so what is the attrition rate? I mean, I guess I'm
Turnover
worried.
rate?
I'm worried that we're waiting till the end. We're not catching them quick enough. If the intent of this is to keep and reward people,
Okay?
we're going to have people who have worked almost 2 years before they have the opportunity to actually see the money in their bank account.
No, we won't have anyone that'll work almost 2 years before they can receive it. So I know you, so if you talk about
Till they-
September 9th.
Till they
okay.
see till
Right.
they see the money
So-
in their bank account, it's going to be almost 2 years.
So, on the question you had, what is our turnover rate? It's about 20% a year is what our turnover rate. So you're looking at roughly about 15, 16 people a year that we have turnover. And that's right now as today, even without this. We don't have anything like this in our organization. We've never had anything really like this in our organization. So now we're bringing this in to say for those people that are top performers, the people that are going to go above and beyond, they can earn that. But they still can get a raise just like everybody else when it comes county time and county funded. So it's to incentivize people that are doing more than just the basic of the job.
So maybe I'm not asking the right question. What is the longevity of your department? How long do people stay? I mean, you're
Sure.
telling me, 15 people leave a year, but
Yeah.
is it 15 people who've been here 20 years, or is it 15 people who've been here 5 minutes, or?
And it can be a little bit of a mix. Most of them are lower, been here less than a year. So about 67% of our staff has been here 4 years or less.
So, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I'm just worried that it's too little, too late for some people. If we want to keep people, if that's really what we want to do, and this is an incentive to keep people and for people to do a good job, now we've waited 2 years to reward somebody.
I'd like to make a motion to amend.
Okay.
So when we passed the budget, most recent budget, the initial vote was to switch the funding, the income that coming in from property taxes that the library was getting to EMS. Well then, so that got passed. Well, so then later on, we put EMS into the 101. So the general fund at that time absorbed that. It didn't go absorbed into the 118 fund. I think that's right. So what I would amend the motion is that we start today. I feel like that the general fund got $100,000 richer from money that was going to the library fund. So, and I think the intent behind the committee's and the commission's vote was that money that was going to more money was going to the library versus going to EMS, that we need to make sure that money gets funneled to EMS and not just lost in the abyss of the general fund. So I would like to amend the motion that it starts today, that he has the funding to do it today. And I mean, he knows his roster. Whoever is eligible for it to now can get it now. But, you know, I feel like that, kind of to Commissioner Vinegar's point, is maybe we can start rewarding people today versus waiting until July.
Do we have a second on the amendment?
I'll second.
We got a second by Commissioner Mulleridge on the amendment. Nathan, did you have a question or thoughts or?
Well, I have lots of thoughts, but I mean, I'm not completely tracking. I guess I would have to take a look and go back and look at employees that met KPIs. We didn't have them all in place last fiscal year, so they couldn't achieve all of them, but I could look at those people that were the top performers and provide that
I mean,
to
you
them now.
decide the mechanism of how
Sure.
they achieve the money. You get to decide that. That's your job.
Sure.
But I just want you to, since we did that, made that vote, let's not push it out 365. Let's do it today. You decide who gets that money. And then next year, we come back around, and if you've got a new idea with how that money should be spent, then we go from there. But
I do want to emphasize that with this, so if the people get it today, it's a pay raise. It's automatically included next year. This is something they could earn each year. This is not a one-time earning. They have 15 steps. So once year 15, if they earn it all 15 years and stay all 15 years and earn it all 15 years, it increases that much every year.
yeah, and
So
again, I
it
think going
builds
back
on it.
to what this committee and commission did is they swapped the rate of income coming in from EMS versus the libraries,
Yes, sir.
which
Yes,
increased
sir.
you guys about $100,000. Then we absorbed you into the general fund. Well, our intent was to give you guys that money. So, you know, again, I may get beat in 26 and it may all change by the time that gets here. But at the very least, I think that's what we ride until then.
So my question is, and I'm going to clarify the motion. So two-part question kind of for both of you. But you're saying the KPIs, really no one's accomplished them yet because you haven't put them in place yet. You're saying once they accomplish them, Commissioner Mays, that if they accomplish them, let's say they accomplish it by December, they would get it. Is that, you want it in this fiscal year, so if somebody does accomplish it before July of 25, they would go ahead and get that
I just
money.
want him to know he has the funding. If he doesn't want it, then that's on him. But I think that as a body, that was the intent, not necessarily about KPIs or STEP or anything like that, was, you know, our funding is not in line with our priorities. And we funneled that money that way. So I just feel like that he should know that the money's there. But again, if his plan doesn't adhere to that, then that's his baby, not mine. But I just wanted to make the amendment today, and it may die. I mean, I don't know.
Would that be the 45,000 or would that be the 100,000?
45.
And so, maybe I could ask, would you, consideration be maybe 1 year from date of hire? As opposed to a fiscal year run?
I think that's more reasonable.
So then that person that gets hired on September 9th, they can have the
Then the next
possibility
September,
September 9th
yeah.
next year as opposed to the July.
That just seems fair.
We can do
Right.
that.
Right.
We can do that. It does take a little bit more work on our side, but it's not unsurmountable. It's doable, yes, sir.
Because somebody could get hired July 20th and they literally could not,
Right.
it would be two
2
full
years.
years.
Correct,
Compared to the person that gets hired in June, we get
Yeah.
it in 13 months.
Right.
correct, yes.
So I see what
So
you're saying, so-
we could change our program to be based on date of hire. Yes, ma'am, we could.
If we can do that, I'm fully supportive of that.
So right now, the motion on the table, is to amend and make it this fiscal year as a first and second. Is there any more questions or discussion on that amendment? See none. We'll go to vote. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion carries. 2 noes. So now the motion on, that we're voting on now, if there's no more discussion, is that this will start this fiscal year and it'll be about $45,000 is what we're,
And Robbie will, for the motion,
I'll do it later, but I'll do it based on this, if it passes.
okay.
any more discussion on the current motion, on the amended motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, capital outlay, I know about a couple months ago, we did start talking about vehicles. I'm sorry if my email was confusing. When I mentioned capital outlay, I was specifically talking about just ambulances. So I wanted to bring that back up and see if there's any more consideration. I know there was talk about ARPA. I do apologize, Phil, I didn't reach out to you before because I said the word ARPA. But anyways, there are some purchases we would like to make in regards to ambulances. I did talk with the vendor today of an ambulance that we were looking at. Unfortunately, they updated and now they won't be delivering until January of 2027. So that one's kind of off the table for ARPA. But we would like to discuss and see if there's any chance that we can start the process of ordering and preparing to order for ambulances so we can get those in. Current state, we ordered 6 ambulances in 2022. We received 2 of those ambulances last year. The other 4 are slated to be here, 2 in the summer of 2025 and 2 in the summer of 2026. So some of our ambulances are taking anywhere from 3 to 4 years to build and get to us. But there are some that we are looking at, which are the smaller design, the more transit style ones that are taking anywhere from 1 year to 2 years to build. Well, not really build per se, but get in line to be built and then delivered to us. So I do have a little bit of a different consideration. Instead of ordering an ambulance that will take 3 to 4 years to build, we're looking at, can we take 2 of our current ambulances and have those remounted? So that means you take the old chassis off of the box, you put a new chassis onto it, you repaint it, you make some fixes to the box. They're still in decent condition. They take less time, about 8 months to do that, and it costs significantly less. I can get 2 ambulances remounted for the cost of 1 new one. So that would help. We can't do that every single time. Our front line is in decent shape. Some of it's in really good shape, but our backup trucks are horrible. We have some that have over 500,000 miles on them, and that doesn't even include the engine hours. So a lot of idling time. Some of those are probably closer to 800,000 miles or more when you factor in the coefficient for idle time and what it has wear and tear. So some of those trucks we need to get phased out. When we get the 4 new trucks in over the next 2 years, we will be phasing those trucks out. So remounting is not something you do every single year. I was hopeful to do it here soon, But the industry has been slow on delivering new trucks, but I think it can work for this fiscal year, and it will help us in maintenance and longevity of our fleet. So I know last time there was a motion for $550,000. We did get that grant from the state. That does offset some of the costs that we did project I think our capital outlay was like $725,000. I believe we could operate just fine with $620,000 to get 2 of the Type 2 ambulances and 2 ambulances remounted. But 20,000 of what I just said, 20,000 is for a unit that wouldn't be here until 2027, so that one would be outside the ARPA limits.
What's the cost for the remounts?
Remount cost is about 140,000.
Could use ARPA funds for that. That would be
Yes. And there's another Type 2 ambulance that we're looking at, it's 145,000. So that's 425,000 is what I project for those 3 units, the 2 remounts and the transit style ambulance.
Commissioner Vandergrift?
I'm sorry, I'm confused again, but, so the ARPA funds, we have if I can see this, 1.3 million, and we've spent 500,000, so on ambulances.
Correct.
So the rest of that money is 2 more ambulances so I'm confused about.
That's money
where's
that's
the-
already on order.
Okay,
Those are for ambulances we ordered in 2022.
okay,
Those are ones that are still on order.
Okay.
This would be new orders
okay.
on top of that.
So we'll get 2 ambulances in when?
I'm told June of 2025 and then summer of 2026
Oh, the ones we've already ordered.
are the ones we already ordered, correct?
Okay.
Commissioner Mays.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we, of that 620,000, before I make the motion, this quick question. Of that 620,000, Nathan,
Sir,
how much of that can be in line with the ARPA requirements in terms of getting it, the purchasing in place and getting it in?
425,000.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we appropriate, I don't even know if that's even the correct word on this one, but appropriate $425,000 from the ARP funds to EMS and $572,000 to the Sheriff's Department to fund their request. That gets us at $997,000. And then for the rest, I'll let Robbie do the math, but,
from Nathan's, the 600 to 420.
yeah, I mean, because, if it's not going to be able to meet ARPA criteria, I don't want to do that, but, and Chief Sharp, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like your request totaled 572, correct?
Yes, it's 572. Basically, it's for 5 new.
There's no buts to it, right?
What else?
No comma but, it's 572.
No, that's for 5 new fleet for patrol, 4 Missouri Highway Patrol Explorers for CID. Their mileage is good on their vehicles. We're going to keep them, but reshuffle them in the sheriff's office. They're just basically coming up on their 9th year, been 9 years old. And then 2 civil process vehicles. We want to put them back into Explorers. We had bought a couple of 17 Escapes from Fox Toyota 2 years ago, but now they're transporting for the courts and stuff, and so they're having to go get a line car and swap out. We just want to put them back in service and hopefully let the other departments of the county use those 2 vehicles. This is what we're going to surplus this fiscal year, just so you can take it home with you. I have 8 cars that we're gonna bring to, commission next month that are already being, equipped at this time. One of them is a drug vehicle, so it'll go back to drug fund, but the other 7 will go into, general fund. And Robbie, I gave you a copy, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's what our intentions to surplus this year, and if possible, even more. But, you know, because we just got the 2 vehicles, in the drug fund for, the 2 Tahoes from Missouri. They got delivered Saturday. So we have those, and if this is approved, it's another 11. So we'll be in pretty good shape.
Robbie, how much does that leave us?
Nathan would need an additional one.
No,
I'm
I'm talking about out of the ARPA funds.
That's 997, and we had 1
How much was John Vickery's request?
We've already got that taken care of.
Okay.
The 70,000.
That's all hit?
Right, Mayor?
172, wasn't it?
I thought there was a list of,
Yeah, I think Commissioner Bochamp did the motion for the first 5, was it?
I think so.
There were more on there, I just don't have that with me. I don't know what I think there was a total of 11 vehicles on there. Was it 400 and some thousand for all 11, and then we did half, or did 5 of them?
So something like that.
Well, and then so we did 1 from solid waste funds,
Yes,
and
70, was on the bottom of that report, I realized. 170,281 is what we have under for auto purchases.
that has been appropriated or committed?
From the ARP funds, yes. Right.
And what was his request?
I can't remember that from the last couple months ago. Sorry.
I'm trying to look it up.
I thought he got everything that was priority.
Well, that's what I thought.
And the difference between what the sheriff and the EMS with ARP funds would be 302,580. Plus, we probably had 20,000 more interest this month. 322,580 left available still.
So we have a motion for 900 and, almost,
For 997.
997.
Which would be 572 for the sheriff's office and 425 for EMS.
do we have a second by Commissioner Wells? Any questions or discussion?
yeah,
I've got a question on the police vehicles. On the request, it's for 5 Tahoes
do you want to give it to Rob?
instead of, I know y'all went to Explorers, but now you're going back to Tahoes?
No,
or
we
what?
do a
Okay.
mixture. Our last Tahoes we bought were 2020 for patrol. We bought 8 of them. They were 4-drive. 2-wheel drives that year were available. They were already sold out. The cost then was about $2,800 more than an Explorer. But we went ahead and got them because the Explorers weren't available. The officers that have those, I offered them, we just got 5 new Explorers in, 24 models, and they all said, hey, I want to wait and get another Tahoe. So that's the reason I looked at doing that. The Tahoes this year are, I want to say around $2,100 more for the 4-wheel drive. But, we do have some weather occasionally that we need some 4-wheel drives, and that's why we want to kind of go with that. The Explorers aren't that much cheaper.
What's the difference?
I'm going to guess here, maybe $2,200 per vehicle.
But the equipment,
The equipment has kept going up. I seen invoices for 2022 on the Explorers, and they were $33,000. This year, they're over 47. So, everything keeps going up. We use the equipment normally a minimum of 10 to 12 years. The cars, we try to get at least an 8-year lifespan out of them. As you can see, we get more than that most of the time. But sometimes when they are K9 vehicles and things like that, which I'm not doing K9 this year because I have 2 line cars that are K9. So, you know, yeah, we could go with Explorer for probably $2,200 less, which, you know, would be about $11,000. But we're just trying to replace the tires.
Any other questions or discussion? Commissioner Mays?
I think they're referring to Mr. Victory's, well, we can go ahead and vote on this and bring up.
Commissioner Orange?
I didn't get the point on the equipment. Is it similar?
The equipment's the same cost whether you do it for an Explorer or a Chevrolet. It's the exact same cost. But when I say exact, I'd say within 1%.
Commissioner Mays, we can bring the list back next month. I found it, but I also know there's like a dump truck for the parks on there for $98,547, and I think John was able to remedy that, so that might be able to be pulled off that list. So it looks like there were 6 others. One of those is a Litter Grant van, kind of that's end of life. That was the one that's on a higher end, so it's at $50,000. But we can bring that back next month.
Thank you, Mayor.
I got, have y'all looked at Durangos? I know EMS has gone to Durangos. Have y'all priced them or?
Well, no. I will say Durangos have a 30% increase in repairs. We got away from Dodge products back in 2017, our oldest or newest, because John said if we bought any more Dodges, we would have to find another mechanic because we were busting his budget. Just to tell you, like an air conditioner compressor was $1,100 versus the Crown Vics that we used to do for $120. I mean, you know, windshields, anything. We had an inmate when we had some new, or back in 16, we had inmates mowing down at the jail, and a rock went through the back window. It sat for 7 months because there's such a back order on stuff. So it's just not been a good experience for us. You know, like I said, we have one 17 Dodge Durango that was bought off the U.S. Marshals grant. They bought it for us. It's ours. And then, like I said, this year we may get rid of all but 3 of our Dodge products. They're just high maintenance. And the mileage, usually when you get about 90,000 miles versus a Ford product, you can get, I would say, 165 for the same kind of malfunctions.
Any other questions or discussion? That's why Nathan's driving home tonight.
Go buy an Intrepid.
So the motion is for $997,000, $425 for the ambulance, and then $572 for the sheriff's department. EMS, sorry, not ambulance. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So that took care of Section C. So I'll move on to Section D with the mayor, items A through C, Section D. So there's 3 of them on there. The first one being camera system for the archives.
Any questions on the camera system, or do we have a motion for approval? Oh.
I didn't know.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm happy to present, or, I mean, I put the letter in, so however you all want to handle it. That's what I figured, that's why I didn't say anything.
Anybody have any questions? Or any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Second.
Commissioner Wells.
Wells.
Thank you.
Okay. All opposed, likewise. Motion carries.
Do we know the cost of that?
$16,000.
Yep.
ARPA
The
funds.
funding source.
And that was
I
the
put
motion.
ARP in the
ARP funds.
request.
Yeah, it was the
Okay,
motion.
great.
That's what I thought.
Moving on.
And then I think was the next,
The raises.
Yes. So this one, in meeting with Robbie, he took a look at the budgets for the various departments that have permanent part-time, and he said it looks to him, you know, without doing the 100% math on each and every one, that there is funding if a department wants to do that. But since it's basically being applied from what the county did, which is a 4% across the board, I think it would be good if we had the endorsement, especially from when we go to submit this to the HR department, because otherwise it's a status change and we have to do an explanation. So I was just looking for an endorsement of Budget Committee that we apply the 4% to the permanent part-time.
So moved.
Did somebody make a motion?
You want a
Okay.
motion, I'll make it.
Okay, Commissioner Mays made a motion.
Oh, I'll
Y'all
second.
were asking it, he was making it. Commissioner Bochamp with the second, and this comes out of the department's budget.
Yes,
right?
I
yes.
got one
yeah.
question too. When we do our budget and we happen to give increases, should we be including part-time in this?
We did
So we
last
don't have
year.
to come back?
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
last year. I just think a lot of the part-time budgets, we have our 169 code. We have a lot of turnover in that money.
Yeah.
That's not used. So I just think, I mean, I have a part-time budget. I hire my part-time employee. I can hire him what I want to. If I want to give him a raise, I can. I mean, I just think we have
I just
control.
think I was under the impression
Right.
4% raises was gonna go to everybody, and I wasn't thinking about the part-timers being in a different code, but I think that's something we probably need to look at every year. If we're gonna give raises, we need to include that
Yes.
so that,
And we typically
department head
say
can get it.
permanent part-time, which
Yeah.
is someone that works consistently
Yes.
20 hours
Yes.
every 2 weeks. So, yeah. And I'll start making sure that I include. I'm bad not to include them. I agree. So.
Any more questions or discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise. Motion carries.
Okay, then the next one is, so years ago, County Commission authorized a motion to request that TDOT add lighting to the entirety of the project for the widening of Edgemore Road, which is State Route 170. And at that time, you know, TDOT said we could make a request, there would be a cost. So they did, what they did is, they said, okay, we can do that. They sent a contract, and the cost is pretty large. So just for the engineering, it's $239,640. For construction, $2,396,370. So I came to Anderson County Commission, and the commissioners, of course, said, no way. Mayor, see if you can get some funding for this. I have not been able to make that happen. I did work closely with Oak Ridge and state officials. The project was split into two sections where the bridge to the Claxon intersection was going to be first, then upon completion, then it would be that was going to be about 3 years. Then the Oak Ridge portion would start, which was going to be that corridor under construction for years and years and divided into two separate sections. It's still divided into two separate sections, but what we have been able to do, working with TDOT, is get all of that handled at the same time. So now essentially it's going to start on the Oak Ridge side, which will allow the whole Oak Ridge corridor, or that State Route 170, to be done at approximately the same time. And so it'll lessen the construction period for the whole corridor. So we did get a win there, but as far as the funding, no. So I have been to many meetings with TDOT for this particular project. What I would like to do, because they continue to push for this contract and send it to me and ask, why haven't you executed it yet? I would like to relinquish this contract unless you all think this is a feasible amount, and restart discussions with them, and perhaps just only look at lighting at the intersection. They are looking at signalization down on one end on the Claxton side, where there are a lot of folks that live over there and are a lot of pedestrian traffic, or foot traffic. And maybe just restart the discussion where we could look at something that's less expensive, and maybe, you know, maybe we can work something that way. So that's what I'm asking for, because it's been quite a while. And again, they send me, now they're getting to where they're sending me the contract every other day. So,
I'll move to authorize the mayor to go ahead with further discussions on the light.
Okay.
With TDOT.
okay.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion from the mayor?
Just really quick, Mayor, I was just, as you have been doing, keeping us in the loop, I know we went to one of the meetings at TDOT together. As you know, there's a strong desire for something to be at that bread box intersection for the pedestrians who frequently come from Mooncrest over. So I would just, through this process, from a county's perspective, I know it's a state project, but from a county perspective, I would like for that to be just a really high priority for us to try to get something there, even if we have to, as a body, put funds towards that project, because of course that is, you know, where the most of our pedestrians are in the streets. But I'm good with moving forward, but I just want to make sure that we keep that at the front.
Okay.
So
I do know they have that planned, and I think they haven't determined yet how they're going to address it. But one of the, and I think you were at that meeting where they were showing some diagrams where they're actually talking about realigning.
yes,
I can't remember what the road is that's there by
Dogwood.
Dogwood,
The Dogwood's
my
there.
place.
But yeah,
Yes.
lining those up.
Yeah, so that there's improved safety and all of that. So that's where I think they're actually considering perhaps signalization there,
Yeah.
a traffic light. So,
Any more questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Motion carries.
thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think that's all I had, right?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. I have General Clark next on the agenda, but I don't see him, so I'm not sure. Shane asked for
Commissioner
that.
Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Spoke with General Clark. He got called away to Nashville. He apologizes for not being able to be here after being asked to be on here. He was not going to ask for a final decision to be made on his request tonight. He just wanted to let us know that he would be coming back at some point with an ask for some of the opioid funds. I don't think we've made any final decisions on those yet. I know the opioid task force has been meeting. I think the last meeting y'all had was in Oak Ridge, if I remember correctly.
And we
Very
have
good meeting.
We have another meeting scheduled next week
Okay, good,
to,
good.
to discuss the resolution.
Okay, all right. So that's what General Clark wanted to come and speak to us about. He will, of course, get back on the agenda at some point. From the discussions that he had, I don't think it's gonna be any substantial amount, but that's what it was, and it's over a vehicle, so it'll be a one-time cost. So that's what he wanted to let us know about.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor.
And, you know, Commissioner Val, it may be something, I think he was just looking for some funding for that, what is the vehicle called? I forgot the crime scene. So it may be something the commission would prefer, because I know you're working a strategy on the opioid dollars where you would like to just use ARP dollars. So what happened is there's a little bit of a shortfall. Kenny, how much is that shortfall on that vehicle?
There was, I think, $100,000 to be spent on a vehicle and equipment. We bought the vehicle, but we didn't spend the money for the equipment in time. It's sort of like the ARP, it had to be spent by June 30th, and because we waited about 3 or 4 months before the end of the budget, some of that stuff is going to take 6 and 7 months to get in. So I think they're just trying to make adjustments to make that big. There is $30,000 in this that was approved tonight for a covert vehicle that
Anyhow, I just thought I'd throw that out there, and, you know, you may want to just do that if you don't want to get into the opioid side. That'd be a good use of the funds.
I can try to add general clerk to the budget agenda next month.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Can you put him back on the agenda, please?
Yeah.
Next.
Judge Spitzer.
Good evening. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the opioid money, the council funds. I know there's a special committee that's been working on that. And I appeared early on in front of the committee, several of y'all were there, I know, and talked a little bit about the need for transportation, which is really one of the things I want to sort of put on your radar as you're trying to figure out what to do with those funds. There was a state study that was done here in Anderson County a few years ago. Ridgeview was kind enough to share a copy of that with me, and I disseminated that to the opioid committee. And the two things that it really emphasized we needed in terms of rehabilitation efforts were housing and transportation. It's a huge problem for the recovery court. I know some of the county commissioners have attended our graduations. I know the county mayor often attends our graduations and gets to see firsthand the good work being done there. When you've got somebody that's been in the criminal justice system sometimes for 15 or 20 years, and you're able to finally get them clean, reconnected with their family, back working and staying out of trouble, and all those things. We can do a lot there, but one of the things we really struggle with on a weekly basis, and Ms. Gadd's here with me, she's my director, is transportation. So we've got treatment facility options in Knoxville, but we can't use them because we don't have a way to get a person back and forth between their weekly drug court obligations here every Monday and the treatment that they need to do in Knoxville or the halfway house that they need to be at, and then how to get them to their jobs and that sort of thing. Also for the jail, there's a lot of the violations of probation that we resolve. We have somebody set in jail for 3 or 4 months serving time on their VOP, and then we immediately transport them to treatment somewhere at Hope or CCS or one of our other area treatment programs. A lot of times it's up to the jail to do that transportation. Sometimes Ridgeview jumps in and helps take people to treatment facilities. But there's an opportunity there that if the county could get a vehicle and an employee, part-time, full-time, we could talk about the particulars, what would work best. Associated with the recovery court, also maybe with the jail, could even be utilized eventually by the sessions courts for people needing to go to treatment. It would be exactly the kind of thing that the opioid money's meant for, helping people get to drug treatment, helping people get to drug court, all those sorts of things, and really be, I think, a tremendous benefit at a relatively small cost for a vehicle and an employee. The second thing I wanted to just sort of put on your radar is something we've been struggling with in the recovery court for several years now. When the recovery court was first set up, ETHRA locally was kind enough to donate to us a LADAC, licensed alcohol and drug abuse counselor. She was able to work with us on a part-time basis at no cost essentially to our recovery court, and they did that as a courtesy for years. But then the Department of Corrections came in and basically pushed ETHRA out of the criminal justice field across East Tennessee. They made a really onerous grant process that basically ETHRA just could not keep their criminal justice involvement. It killed our community corrections program completely, which was like a super intensive probation program for people separate from my recovery court. It was a different program. Essentially, that program went away. But then we also lost the funding for our LADAC, our counselor. Now, we get a small amount of court costs that gets diverted to a special fund for recovery court. And for the last couple of years, we've had a part-time contract with our LADAC. She was able to find a job at the Morgan County Prison, and they're kind enough to let her continue to assist our program. And we've been paying her on a part-time basis with a contract approved by Jay to continue to help us so we could continue to help people in our recovery court program. But the amount coming into that fund every year and the amount going out to cover her part-time pay just wasn't matching up. And we slowly basically depleted that fund. Now, Ms. Gadd and I have gone back to the Department of Mental Health in Nashville and asked them, would you please look and see if there's anything you can do to help us? And they've allocated for us an additional $30,000 a year to help cover her part-time salary. We don't know yet whether that's going to be a recurring thing every year or whether that's a one-time deal. We're still working on the particulars of how to get those funds to us and get them to her and keep her engaged with our recovery court folks going forward. somewhere down the road in the next year or two, it would be absolutely fantastic if we could bring that LADAC to our recovery court full-time. We could do a lot more treatment things within our recovery court. We're trying to grow our program. We've increased our female participation. We're trying to increase minority participation. There's a lot of things we could do if we could have a full-time treatment person here to do treatment classes and groups and all of that. Right now, she's having to do a lot of that remotely and by phone. I wanted to put it on your radar that somewhere down the road, we may be asking for some of those opioid funds to help cover the part-time cost of the LADAC, or maybe to add her on as a full-time employee to the recovery court. Either way, it'd be extremely beneficial to our community, because we're talking about people who usually have been engaged in the criminal justice system for many, many years. They've been a problem to the community for a long time. Some of these folks I prosecuted when I was across the street in the DA's office. But we can finally get them back into good behavior and reconnected with families, driving legally again, working full-time jobs. It can be a huge benefit.
Mr. Chairman, I was just looking at this list that Chief Sharp gave us, just for a Band-Aid approach until the group. I mean, there's 2 cars, one requested by the circuit court clerk, the other one requested by the county clerk, that are under 100,000 miles, that were used for civil process, until something could get worked out. I know there might be other, what you will hear Chief Sharp would call line cars, so some other Ford Explorers that have been obtained on grants in previous years, that once that grant cycle's done, the use of that vehicle becomes wide open, more so in the mental health transportation field. So while those conversations are happening, maybe that's an avenue to take and approach Chief Sharp about some of these vehicles that, and there's some that are in really, really good shape. That's not on this list, but again, I don't want to speak for them, but just seeing a couple that that have already, they're trying to get their SUVs. You know, they're good. He referenced them, the ones from Fox Toyota.
I heard him say a couple of escapes that they've been using for civil process. Sure.
So I just think maybe until we create a more permanent solution, that could be something that could help.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you for coming. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Next is Commissioner Mays.
Just be quick. I don't know if I sent out the email earlier this week talking about the consolidation of committees. So before I say anything, I want to be clear that it has nothing to do with our finance committee, which administers and manages the finance department. The statute's very clear in terms of who has to sit on that committee and what their roles are. But if you look at the 81 Act pretty much tells the counties, they give the counties a lot of freedom in terms of their committees. They address the investment, they address finance, they address budget, they address purchasing. Another thing that is not really addressed, but it's already kind of under the umbrella of the finance, is our fixed assets. We have a committee on our books for fixed assets that haven't met probably since Ruth was here. It's been a long time. But the investment part is already falling under the finance committee, which is allowable under the 81 Act. And I reached out to Rachel for her opinion, and she approved it. And where this came from is just looking at a way to streamline our committee process. Sometimes I think government can become like big Baptist churches, and we get about 25 to 30 committees, and sometimes they're just not necessary. And I say that having served on purchasing for quite some time, that we joke sometimes we're done in 4 minutes, sometimes we're done in 7 minutes, sometimes we're done in 11. Other than the bus contract, which everybody should endure, should have endured with us. Other than that, that's the norm of the purchasing. And for me, I spoke to a commissioner in Weakley County who I saw, he's a client, but I saw, I was like, you serve on what? And he was telling me this is what they did when they went to 81 Act, is they combined budget and purchasing. Because honestly, when you're going through procurement and we sign these contracts, where it's in essence, we're agreeing to make that appropriation of funds. And it is such a small agenda most of the time that I don't see the need anymore to have two separate committees. And so that's why I'm proposing, and in the email, proposing that we create, because Rachel said you have two ways of doing it. And Jay and I had talked about this prior to his passing. You have two ways of doing it. You either amend existing resolutions, but since there's two, probably creating both of those, or you create a new one that dissolves those two committees and creates the new one. So I think that's the cleanest way to do it, and it would be creating a new committee called Ways and Means, which, if you just look up the definition of those things, it covers revenues, expenditures, and contracts, and all of those things. Very common in government, very common in local government, very common in state, federal, across the board. So for me, it was just a way of streamlining our process, making it more efficient. Sometimes we have contracts that having 3 more sets of eyes on it is a good thing, and so that is my request. That is my motion, is that we draft a resolution that dissolves the Purchasing and Budget Committee and creates the Ways and Means Committee that takes up the business of our current Budget and Purchasing Committee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We got a second to do what Commissioner May said. You got all that on the motion. Is there any questions or discussion about the committee? And this would go, does it need to go to operations too, or can just go to full budget?
I think it could go to full budget, but I would have no problem presenting it to, it would be, once it goes to the full commission, that's the ones that would be hearing its operations.
Commissioner Mao?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Knowing Tyler the way I do, I believe he certainly did his research and his homework, but this is, first I heard about it was the email the other night, so I've got a bunch of questions bouncing through my head, and even getting the answers for them today, I'm probably still gonna want some more time to think about them, study on them, and do my own research. When was it that Rachel gave that opinion?
This week.
This week?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Off the top of my head, and the older I get, the more my memory fades, who all sits on purchasing currently?
It's myself, Commissioner Wells, Commissioner
Yeager, Commissioner
Yeager, and Commissioner Palmer.
So,
And Commissioner Barron.
so what would the new Ways and Means Committee makeup be?
It would be, because in part of that, I'm glad you said that, because part of that would be in our rule structure, because 8 have to serve on budget, 8 have to serve on operations. It would take the place of budget of being 8 would serve on Ways and Means, 8 would serve on operations, and then if 2 years down the road another commissioner wanted to switch, it would fall under the rule.
So these people that are sitting here right now,
This would be if it was passed 6 months ago, this would be the Ways and Means Committee.
right?
Yeah.
And this would go in effect in September when we do the new committees?
Well, just whenever the resolution is
Right,
passed,
but,
yeah.
for purposes of streamlining those committees.
So I would be interested to know how Commissioner Yeager, Commissioner Palmer, and Commissioner Barron, what their opinions certainly would be on that. I mean, they may not care. I mean, it may not
Well, I
be
will
a
say
big issue.
this,
for them.
Commissioner Yeager gave his blessing
To that point, because I sent, like, in the email, I have not said anything at budget, but the last two purchasing committee meetings, I have raised this issue. One being because Jay was present at one, and had approached the finance director and purchasing agent. And so all three of those were present at those meetings. I can't speak for them how they feel today, but I can tell you the second time that I had approached it and brought it up, that I don't remember what Commissioner Barron said, just to be honest, but I do remember Commissioner Yeager and Commissioner Palmer supporting that during those meetings. Again, a lot happens between now and then, but they were supportive of the move.
And another thing, Mr. Chairman, I want to make sure I'm doing it in the proper way. Of the research that you've done on it so far, I can certainly see some benefit as far as the consolidation and the streamlining. What bad have you heard about doing it this way?
The only bad that I've heard is, and of course, let's pretend that the bus contract was this committee. That would have been one of those where you're like, okay, well, if we had a purchase committee, we wouldn't have had to have gone through that, right? I mean, that, so talking to,
That's what he's trying to
Longer meetings.
yeah, but, and again, having served on it for 2 years, you throw that anomaly out, I don't think we've met longer than 20 minutes. And not even that, because again, most of it is, it's just approving contracts that are already out there, but that's been the negative, is if in the event that a messy contract comes, then that is the
But a lot of
only
times they're gonna come to full commission anyway, so
They are.
we're still gonna be in the hot water
right.
regardless. So what happened that, I'll just use hillbilly terms. What happened that got your mind thinking about this anyway?
Well, it was on the heels of, we sunsetted alternatives to incarceration. I have, over the last few months, and Commissioner Palmer has too, but really started looking at all of our committees, looking at the list and seeing how incorrect that they are, and seeing we have committees that haven't met in forever. Fixed assets. I called Robbie the other day and I said, what is this? You know, they don't meet. And so for me, people's times are precious, and we have people who are self-employed and all of these different things. And if it makes sense to merge. And so when I talked about, the initial question is it makes sense to merge these two because they marry each other, but can we do it? And so that's when the process started of looking at the 81 Act and looking at, and specifically it's 105 in the 81 Act that allows counties to do this, that authorizes us to do it. It started there at the question, and then it just, I started finding more counties that were kind of operating under that.
Do you, and you certainly, you could email this out later on, but off the top of your head, do you know what those other counties were?
I can tell you one off the top of my head is Wheatley County. One of my clients is a commissioner out there, and he serves on the Ways and Means Committee. So, but for me, it's just it's an effort to streamline government, make it efficient. We're asking employees to stay sometimes late, and having multiple meetings sometimes can be redundant. So, but that was my approach.
Any other questions?
I understand where Tyler's coming from, and I appreciate the effort to try to streamline things, but I don't think I'm ready to vote yes on this yet. I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say I'm totally against it. I don't know enough about it to say that, but I'm not ready for a vote on it, tonight. I'm gonna try to do some research on it myself, and maybe we can bring it back up again, at another budget committee meeting would be my suggestion, but obviously I know the motion's on the floor.
Well, I would just say too, I mean, change is not always, you know, loved in especially in government. But I can tell you the only thing that changes is that this body has a new name change, and we're just taking up what purchasing took up. Anything outside of that, there's nothing to it because it's already under the umbrella of the finance committee. So it's really just getting rid of a committee that meets for 38 minutes a year and putting it into something more, you know.
Mayor Frank, you wanted to?
Oh, I just was going to ask for clarification on the motion. Is this to initiate the process so that a resolution is created? Or
Yes.
if you pass this, do you consider it already merged?
No, I'm asking for a resolution to
Kind
be
of full
drafted
commission.
Okay, okay.
It's gonna be to move to full commission for,
for approval, yes.
and then Commissioner Smallridge had, I'll come back to you.
I guess I have some of the same concerns that Commissioner Val has. You know, I know it's, you look at it, it's not significant in terms of a change, but it does amend our 81 Act, am I correct?
Well, nothing amends, we don't have an 81 Act. The state law is the 81 Act.
Okay, well,
It only thing, what it does,
amends our things in the law, is that not correct?
well, we don't have anything in the law. What the 81 Act does, it just tells us what we can and cannot do.
Well,
So
I
we
guess
have
I'm saying it wrong.
We have a resolution that created a budget committee and a purchasing committee.
Yeah. That's
Th-
what I was focusing,
Yeah,
And
this
I
would
didn't-
just change that.
Yeah.
Nothing, I mean, again, I'm happy to do, I mean, look, if we don't change it, I'm good with it too. But again, I think that we're getting caught up in the word change when really the only change is the name of the,
Consolidated.
we're just consolidating.
Commissioner Val, I'm gonna pass the gavel to Commissioner Smallridge for a second. I'll do that.
Okay.
I'm gonna call on Commissioner Val to pass the gavel for a second.
You know, you can call
Make
for
me
a
mad
recess being the chair. you know.
I know, I mean,
Who would write the resolution?
I think the mayor does a tremendous job writing a resolution. And unfortunately, I had to write 2 theses in college, so I have no problems with writing a
The
resolution.
reason I bring that up, obviously, is because, you know, usually our law director's office or someone would draft those resolutions for us, so, I don't know if that would delay the process or not. And speaking to the point of change, and Tyler and I have known each other for a while, so he knows this about me. I'm certainly one who does not like change. I like to seek you out the old paths and walk therein. However, I do understand that occasions do come up when changes certainly at least need to be considered, especially in the world of technology, stuff like that. I'm still way behind on the learning curve. But I've never been an advocate change just for the sake of changing either. And again, I know I'm sounding like, you know, I'm totally against it. I'm not yet. I don't know enough to be totally against it. I would ask that we take a little bit more time to research this. If we're not in a rush, if there's no time constraints on this, then we have no need to rush into it. So, like I said, I think if we call this for a vote tonight, I'll be a no vote simply because I haven't done enough homework on it myself. Made a few phone calls. I'd like to know some other counties as well that try this, so I can reach out to them. But that's where I'm on it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I would also, like, just to Tyler's point, he asked if I would be in favor of this, which I would be, but under the 81 law, the finance director is the purchasing agent as well. And I also already do both reports and commission levels, so it's basically combined anyway. I mean, but anyway, that's just fine.
Any more questions or discussion?
I think Commissioner Wells was going to
Commissioner Wells.
piggyback on, did you say?
No, I guess I was just gonna say, like, in regards to that bus contract, there was 5 of us that made that decision for the whole county. It didn't come before full commission, so this just creates more accountability that the taxpayers can look at and see. There's 8 opposed to 5, so.
Just want to say, I'm not necessarily against this, but.
But you're not for it.
But at this point, I'd like to, delay things at least a month. There's no great rush to.
Well, look, if it gets voted down, I'll be back next month. I'm not going anywhere.
All right, any more questions or discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner White.
I am for this.
Okay.
I have chaired the BZA for 12, 15, I don't know, several years. And we've got 5 board members and me. We've got one that's working full-time, and then I work some. Some of our meetings, 5 minutes. Sometimes we have one item. And sometimes our meetings last hour and a half. Sometimes we've had to bring deputies in to make sure everything went smooth. But when you ask 5 adults who have their own life to come to a committee meeting that lasts 5 minutes, it's sort of a stretch. Every time we meet, I thank every one of our committee members for showing up to take time to do that. Sometimes we might make light of a committee member, but everybody comes to these meetings to make sure that we do county business, as Commissioner Wells was saying. But I'd like to see, I'm not for changes. You can ask my wife, change is not part of me. But this would be a step, I think, in the right direction to, the bus contracts was a lengthy process, but every meeting is not that way. And when you ask committee members, our beer board, sometimes 5 minutes. Anyway, I am for this. I think it's a great idea.
Any other questions or discussion?
And one last, just real quick, going back to the 5, is having these smaller number committees. I've seen it with, we've sat here on highway, where you bring these citizens in, you bring people in, you don't have quorum, you can't meet. So when you have these smaller committees, and purchasing is an important, obviously a huge part of the function of our government, you do run the risk. I mean, you've got business owners, people who I just think it gives purchasing even more protection to ensure that it is a committee that will have its items heard every month. So that's all I have.
Any more questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise.
No.
Motion carries. And that is to start the process to
To have
write
a
the
resolution,
resolution
and then
full
too,
commission.
just for the sake of,
Should I say that before you?
I will send more information out as well on this.
Last item is under new business that we added to the agenda.
Yes, just really quick, after today's legal services meeting, some decisions were made. It was a really good meeting, by the way. But I'm asking for $45,000 out of unassigned fund balance to hire the decision was made for a 90-day special counsel contract to provide legal services for up to 90 days. So this would, at $15,000 a month, starting September 1st. So we don't have the money in place to pay for that kind of a contract. And in order for it to be in place by September 1st, it would need to pass this budget meeting and commission level, so.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
We got a motion to approve, we have a
Second.
second. You got a second? Any questions or discussion? All in fa, no, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
No.
All opposed likewise? No, we got one no. Any other thing to come from the board?
I'd just like to make one announcement.
Go ahead,
Tomorrow, in Judge Boland's courtroom, from 3 to 5:30, they're gonna have like a little memorial service get-together for courthouse staff, his daughter's coming, and things like that, so everybody's welcome to come over there.
Or Jay.
For Jay.
Yeah,
Uh,
thought I said that, but.
yeah. Motion to adjourn?
Been a long,
Motion.